Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Who Are You podcast. I'm your host, Connor Overbay. If this is your first time, checking out the podcast, welcome. Always happy to have some new listeners, new watchers, all that good stuff. Make sure you guys give us a subscribe, a like, a follow on all of our social media. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod for everything. And then for the YouTube, it's going to be Who Are You Pod. Who Are You podcast, and you guys will be able to find us on there, or you guys can just click the link tree, and you guys will be able to find us on there. Also, if you guys know anybody who has a story that needs to be told, a business owner, an entrepreneur, artist, musician, really a mix of anybody, and you feel like they'd be a good fit for the show, feel free to shoot me a message on any of our social media, or you guys can email me. It's going to be whoareyoupod@yahoo.com. But today, I'm sitting down with a very, very special guest. Actually, this is a part 2 for this guest right here. You guys may have seen last time we did the interview at his home, and now we're in my studio. But today, I'm sitting down with Mr. Bruce Breedlove, man. Shout out and thank you for coming back on the show.
Yeah, am I your first repeat guest?
No, you are not. I've had a couple 3-peaters, Shannon's probably a 6 to 10-peater now, right now.
Other than her, we got to get this going more.
Hey, man.
More regular thing.
I love it. And like I said, it's like, thank you for taking the time to come over
My
here.
pleasure.
I know I'm not on your neck of the woods, so I always appreciate when someone's willing to travel over here. But before we get too deep into the conversation and everything, if you want to let everybody know where they can follow you on either your social media, websites, any of that good stuff.
Yep. So like Connor said, I'm Bruce Breedlove. You can follow me on Instagram. That real Bruce Lee. The real Bruce Lee was taken, unfortunately. You can find us at alignmoneymastery.com. That's our company, our personal finance coaching company. Also on TikTok, you can find me. Just search Bruce Breedlove. I'll come up there. And that's the main sites I've been focusing on, actually. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So obviously we were talking a little bit before the podcast started, and you've been busy, man, from what I've been seeing.
busy as heck, yeah.
I love to see it. You said you've been on a couple of radio shows, been doing kind of a mix of things. What's all been going on that side?
Yeah, so last time we talked, Align was still sort of in its infancy. We started January, February of 2023, and we were a couple classes in when we talked. So what changed since then is we really started to get traction because we created results in people's lives. People are paying off debt. People are investing. People are, communicating about money as married couples. And so referrals started happening, right? We've never paid for advertisement. I've never really aggressively advertised. I just really, on social media, put bits of economic information up there that people can digest and understand that I feel are pertinent. And so that started taking off too. People just started coming to us via social media, via referrals. And then fast forward to April, I started going live on TikTok. Just literally, I had my numbers behind me, like my net worth, investments, everything, and it just says, ask me money questions. And the response from there is absolutely insane. I thought, I'd get a couple new followers. The first time I got off, I had 700 new followers.
Hell yeah.
And, hundreds of video views, messages. It got to the point where, I was going live every other day. And then, people were asking me, people were subscribing to me on TikTok. So they're literally paying, $9 a month. So I'm like, I have to figure out how to offer these people something. This is not, anyway, it started taking off, right? So, fast forward to now, we've had 51 families come through Align Money Mastery. And I think when we talked, it was maybe around 20. And that's any one of our products. We introduced 2 new products as well. So we had the 3-month mastery class, which we still run back to back to back. So we do it, 4 times a year. And we can do 7 families at one time there. And so that was our only product last time we talked. Now, I realized that there was a need for us to scale beyond that because, like I said, we can only do 7 families at a time. So we launched online monthly coaching. It's $100 a month. It's subscription-based. You get an hour a month with us, plus all of our classes that we teach in the full class, the 3-month class, but recorded.
Okay.
And stored on our website.
Gotcha.
So it's for someone who doesn't necessarily want to take the intense 3-month class, or they want to do it a little more casually, or someone that just wants to join for a couple months, right? Get the information and then leave. That's completely fine. But what we find is people don't leave so far. And then our third product is really, and we can dig into all this if you want, but it was really born from the success that our students had. So people come in, they learn about money, they pay off their debt, and then they're like, well, I have extra money now. How do I invest? And we teach like the principles of investing, but not like manage your investments for you. And so people are coming to us and like, hey, I have all this money now. Like, what do I do? So what we were focused on at the time and still are is building passive income to retire early. So I'm 35. My wife's now 36. We're going to be done working by the age of 40. through dividend investing. And it's not fancy crypto. It's not anything crazy. It's just literally investing in dividend producing stocks and ETFs that pay you monthly, and you use that money to then retire. So we created what we now call Align Elite, which is our passive income investing program. And that we now have 11 families in that we're helping them build passive income now through traditional investing. So anyway, your original question is what's changed, what have I been doing? It's that. And so the cool thing is we still don't advertise. I actually stopped doing the TikTok lives as often because we couldn't handle the demand. Like I would get off and we'd have, 6 financial audits booked. So anyway, the point is we've grown. We've helped people pay off over $360,000 of debt now.
Dang, look at you.
And saved over, and the numbers change almost daily because we're meeting with our customers and helping them pay off debt. But somewhere around $60,000 of interest saved on debt. We're by the end of the year we'll be at $2 million invested, which is insane to say.
I definitely agree.
$2 million invested with our clients. So you're good. But yeah, it's just grown like crazy, and it's still unfortunate that I still have a full-time job because I can't do it at a higher level yet.
I told it. Damn, man. I was like, that was probably the most thought out answer I've gotten in a very long time. And I love to see the growth. It's awesome to see, that's why I like sitting down for part 2s with people, maybe about a year out and kind of see what's happened, because obviously me and you follow on each other on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all the normal spots. And I've been seeing the growth, man. And I absolutely love to see it. I know it's a lot of hard work behind the scenes that maybe many people don't see, but I'll say, if anything, we see it over here. And I think it's awesome. And it's awesome you and your wife are working together on this, and to be retired by 40. Shannon, doesn't that sound so nice? I say we're going to have to start taking some classes because these jobs we're working on, I'm not trying to work for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and by the way, you're not the only one that has that thought.
Oh, I'm totally sure.
Except there's a disconnect between what we think is possible and what actually is possible. And what's in between there is a lot of people that want to scam you. And I've been told, don't bring up scams because maybe people think you're a scam. I hate very few things in this world, and I hate people that scam people out of money. It's disgusting. And we have a very prominent scammer in Jacksonville who scammed. I don't want to drop the name.
You're fine. You don't have to. I wasn't aware.
The point is, there's people in our market that unfortunately, it's now harder for us to help people in Jacksonville because there's a very prominent scammer.
Interesting.
And so it's an issue, right? But this is just how to manage money expertly. It's not magic. It's really not that sexy. But it's just retired by 40 is my reality, but I've been working this plan, as sort of we talked about on the first episode, and we can remind your viewers of that. I've been working this plan since 18 years old.
Yeah.
So this is a product of 17 years, almost 2 decades of saving, budgeting, investing times 17 years.
Exactly.
Right? So this is not an overnight success. I mean, my overnight success took 17 years.
That's usually what most success is. Yeah. A lot of people see these people, whether it's on social media or on the movies, and they're thinking, oh, they were an overnight success. It's like, no, you're just now hearing about them, but they've probably been just like me and you, where you start on social media, you post your first video or your first TikTok, whatever you want to call it, and they do it for 5, 10 years, 17 years, and then they finally get one that puts them in your face and you're aware of them. Like, for example, I don't know if you watch streamers or anything, but there's a guy named Sketch. Hello, brother is his
I've seen memes about him recently.
Yeah, so he's a meme. So he's a whole meme and everything, but he has been streaming for years, and then he got big. That's just what it is. I feel like a lot of people, the way I describe, at least me and her success, is kind of painting in one stroke at a time. You're building it layer by layer. It might not seem like anything, but after a year or how many years you said there, you're building and you're getting that process, and it's becoming and growing more and more. You just might not see it at that time.
100%. Yep.
But no, that's awesome, man. So when it comes to having 50 families involved in your business and everything, did you ever think it was going to grow to that size? That's a lot of people, and a lot of trust for a lot of people, because money's hard to come by nowadays. You're not just walking into a job nowadays and making $80K a year, off the rip. So how's that process been? How have you you said it's kind of hard for people to trust people working with money. How have you gotten that trust from those?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I mentioned our sort of lead funnels, where we're getting customers from. And number one is referrals. So it's, people that you trust, right? or the people that trust you, we helped you, and then they see it, or you start talking about it, and that's one thing. And then I mentioned the social media piece. I don't do anything fancy. I could do it at a lot higher of a level, but like I said, I just take little pieces of economic data and put it in layman's terms and sort of make people understand how it pertains to them. And then over time, it's sort of like subliminal messaging. When someone has like a thought of like, hey, I want to do better, or hey, I want to start investing, or oh, I saw that, I really want to, this debt is like getting hard to manage. I want to be the first one that you think of, right? So I think again, it's a compounding effect of really truly helping people, getting referrals, and then the social media sort of lazy strategy of just like, basically shit posting. Sorry, can I say that?
Of course, you can curse on it.
Basically shit posting, like I learned something or hey, there's this economic news just randomly, right? And again, I could be way more scheduled and disciplined with it. I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, 51 families, and that's not including the families that went from our 3-month mastery class to Align Elite, which that was really, again, how it was born was out of that necessity that people had, that need that people had that I wanted to fill. So there's really truly more than 51, but it's 51 families that are unique that have come through one of our products. And to answer your question, did I think it was going to grow so much? Once I sort of became enlightened about what money could do, I have been passionate about helping just anyone around me that would listen. But then I figured out after giving my time away for 8+ years, through my 20s, I'm like, people have to have skin in the game. And that's really that was the onus for the business starting, right? And that's when I really started seeing results. It was where people are bought in enough to pay, right? Because my time is, we charge $750 for the full 3-month mastery class, not monthly. That's start to finish the whole thing.
That's not terrible, yeah.
And we normally pay for ourselves by the end of month 1 in either interest saved, credit card rewards that we help you get, just various things. Often, wasted spending that we're helping you identify. The class pays for itself by the end of month 1, not including all the future returns of investing correctly, et cetera. So, I wanted to create more value than I'm being paid, and I think that strategy has caused us to grow quickly, and where people are getting, they're feeling the value, and they're not feeling the pay, how much they pay for it.
Exactly. If someone's paying that price there and they didn't get anything out of it, they're like, I feel like
it's a bad experience.
I just had a bad experience.
Yes.
And, you don't want to do that, which I totally understand. That's kind of like something I'm involved with now. Like my new job is like I work in sales for a company. And, like you were saying, people are real scared about spending their money nowadays. They're, especially in the economy that we're dealing with now, where everything is, hyperinflated and everything. People are real scared to kind of put money in, kind of do things, even just like little passion projects, like for cars, or I was telling you about me and Shannon, we can't look at houses, man, with how everything's going. And has inflation kind of messed with your business too much at all, or I'm sure you've probably been teaching a lot of people about inflation.
So inflation is a massive issue, and let's really get into like what caused it, because there's so much misinformation out there about what really caused it, and the exacerbating factors. But actually, I think the crunch that people have felt over the last 2 years has led us to grow. I think people are now forced to pay attention to their money because they look at, most people don't budget. Probably 98% of people don't know how to budget correctly. And there is a correct way to budget, you hear? Like, it's not just like, I know how much money should be in my checking account. That's not budgeting. I spend about that. If you start, your response with, you're not really budgeting. So I think that just as a product of inflation, people are feeling more crunched. So they're forced, and then they don't see, it's not logic first, it's emotion first.
Of course.
So they start feeling money stress, and then they start realizing and looking at the numbers because they're forced to. And then it's like, I have to do something. That's what's been happening to the consumer. Inflation has been high now for 4 years, but really people are just now starting to feel it. But the symptoms are everywhere. Through higher use of buy now pay later, like Klarna and Afterpay, and PayPal has one, Apple has one. People are using that to fund groceries.
That's scary.
And I think at the last time I looked at the stats, and forgive me, this is not up to date as of today, but something like 40% of buy now pay later that was started in the holidays between Thanksgiving and the end of last year, we're behind at least one payment. So that was like spring numbers.
40%.
40%. So people are getting behind on that. Household credit card debt is $1.1 trillion.
I believe it.
For the first time in history. Hardship withdrawals on 401ks are at an all-time high. So all these like symptoms are out there, and people are just now starting to wake up and be like, holy crap, like I can't afford anything. So the answer to your question is inflation has not hurt us, it's helped us because we're helping people with this need that they suddenly feel that they have, which is very real.
No, it really is. And like me and Shane were just talking about the other day, we went and got groceries, and I can't step inside Publix without spending $150 just for simple things like just getting some chicken and like making 3 meals out of what we buy.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous, man. Like we look at our finances pretty closely. It's not like, we're not rich in any way, shape, or form. We do enough to make sure we're taken care of, put a little bit of money away each time we get a paycheck, and we budget, pretty good amount. Let's say most of the things, like we don't have many streaming services that we pay for. It's not like I'm getting cable or really buying things that we really don't need. Nowadays, I'm just kind of focused on saving, putting money into savings account, also looking more into the investing side of things, because from what I've learned on our last conversation, you don't have to have, $50,000 to start investing.
I didn't.
Exactly.
I started with $50 a month because that's all I could afford. I worked at Dairy Queen and made $600-800 a month all the way through college. So absolutely not. Now, I mean, investing is the same, really, no matter how much money you have. It's just the numbers are bigger when you have more.
Exactly.
But it's the same net effect. Compound interest working for you is a force stronger than gravity.
I think that's a good thing that we can talk about there too.
Yeah.
If you could explain compound interest, like I've heard a little bit about it and I have somewhat of a mild understanding of it, but for the viewers and everything, if you don't mind explaining that.
Yeah, so compound interest is the opposite of simple interest. So simple interest would be like, hey, you owe me $100, and you say, hey, just pay me back 110. Okay, and it doesn't matter how long it takes me, or if I pay you in $20 bills or $5, whatever. I owe you 110. So that would be simple interest. So compound interest would be, hey, you're going to loan me $100, and just say, hey, you got to pay me 10% more, 10% a month for every month you don't pay me. Okay, so at the end of month 1, I owe you $110, right? At the end of month 2, I owe you $121. At the end of month 3, I owe you $134. So it went from $10 to $11 to $13. So it's the definition of compound interest is interest that makes interest. And so it's, without being too complicated, it does matter when the compounding periods are. In my example, it's monthly. Right?
Okay.
So I owe you 10% monthly on that $100. And so we see and we feel the effect of compound interest in like credit card debt.
Yes.
So credit card debt is compound interest because it's charging you a yearly percentage, but it's compounded daily. So if you have $100 at the end of, let's just say, the end of year 1 on a credit card, you're going to have to pay $125. But then if you leave that for another year, it's $125 times 25%. So so compound interest works both ways. So compound interest, to answer your question, is interest that makes interest. Now it works the opposite way with investing, right? Because if I'm investing $100 and I get 10% a year, at the end of year 1, I have $110. Doesn't sound like much, but you still made 10%. And again, the same math applies. At the end of year 2, I have $121. And so there's something that's called the rule of 72. The rule of 72 is you take 72 and divide it by the interest rate, and that tells you how fast your money's going to double. So for instance, if you're on your 401k, right, you invest and you get 10% annual interest on your 401k, right, or returns, it's going to take 7.2 years for your money to double. And then for your money to double again and to double again. And that's with no extra money added, right? So compound interest is interest that makes interest, and when it's working for you, it's incredible. When it's working against you, it feels like it does now for a lot of consumers like that are dealing with credit card debt, HELOCs, home equity line of credits, these compound interest types that are working against you, and then now interest rates are higher, so rates on credit cards are higher, rates on HELOCs are higher, so it's compounding the negative compound interest effect for consumers right now. So, compound interest is, like I said, a force stronger than gravity, and time is the best asset you have. The difference between 9 and 10% doesn't seem like a lot, and it's not. However, that that 9 or 10% over 30 years is hundreds of thousands of dollars when
Exactly.
it's working for you. So hope that answered your question.
No, that was great. Like I said, that was very factual. That's the thing is like I love learning and, because I don't know all this stuff behind the scenes, so it's very interesting. And no, that's my big thing. Like credit cards, I was solely against for the longest time. And then I tried to get my first apartment with just me and her on the lease. And they're like, you don't have any credit. I'm like, you're right. I need to build this. And I was totally against it. Like, how like Dave Ramsey is like against credit and everything.
Yeah, that's not wise to be against credit, but yeah.
Exactly. And that's my thing where now I have a credit card. I just don't overspend it. I don't go over, the limit or anything like that. I make sure it's paid off every single month, just little payments. Usually it's like gas and groceries, common stuff that I can take care of. It's not like if I put $4,000 on there and like, okay, at the end of the month, I'm going to pay $4,000. There's no way I'm not going to be able to do that right now.
Yeah. You just don't change your spending habits.
Exactly.
Except you're just taking it from debit and you're putting it on credit, and you don't change habits. That's exactly how to build credit.
Exactly. Just keeping it safe. Make sure we build a credit score. Don't do anything to destroy it. The only thing that was like rough this past year was we had to get new cars. My Ford that I was driving for a while didn't have AC in it for 4 years here in Florida. Absolutely terrible. But I also wasn't going to spend the money on it because it was worth more than what the car was going to be worth. Yeah. So it was old. And then the sunroof of the car, there's little tubes that run through your car and let the water out the bottom. So whenever it rains, it doesn't rain in your car.
Right.
Those got clogged, and it started raining in my car. So anytime it would rain, water would go directly to my floorboards, and it would be like a swimming pool in there. You can ask her. She has seen me multiple times in there with a hairdryer just drying it out.
And
so
she still married you.
Oh, I know. Well, this is I think during our marriage, if I remember correctly. Okay. It's like right after we got married.
She's still with you.
She still is. She's still here. She's dealt with me for...
She's behind the camera, in case you're wondering. I swear.
She's my if you guys have watched Joe Rogan, she's my Jamie. Ask questions.
Yeah.
She can Google stuff real quick. But the interest rates on cars, it's crazy to see how much they are. I think I got like a 7% interest rate on that thing, and that was after negotiating, sitting there for hours and trying to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Her first offer was 13%. I looked at these people. I was like, you're fucking us over, first of all, and it's rude that you're doing this to young people. And I was like, we'll just get up and leave. And we got down to the same level as me. But the compound interest part you were talking about there, I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people aren't really aware of.
Yeah.
Because it's, that's not taught to us in school.
Nope.
In your home economics class or any of the classes that you take in high school, they didn't really teach you that. And even in college, unless you're kind of like majoring in that field, they're not teaching you this. So I think it's kind of weird how that works, but obviously that's where you come in and help inform everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's first of all, we need to talk about inflation. Let's go back and talk about that.
Go right ahead.
We need to talk about interest rates and why they are the way they are. But let's stick on that piece and then let's go backwards. So I have this this is something that blows my mind, right? And so, by the way, I've gone another day without using y equals mx plus b in my daily life, right?
Same.
Clip that.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But I use compound interest and it works for me and works against a lot of people every single day, right? So there's a complete mismatch between what we're teaching, not just young people, but it would be great if it was just young people. We start them that early, but then everyone needs to know this. The thing that blows my mind is this, right? We all, me still included because I still have a full-time job, get up every day and work a certain amount of hours for a certain amount of money, right? We are literally spending our most precious asset, time, to get a certain amount of money. No one ever teaches us how to use it. No one ever teaches us how to make more money really sustainably, invest it, grow it, and then to get to not have to trade time for money. I will never understand. And the thing that overlays all of this is that it's taboo to talk about money. So we're using our greatest asset to get a certain amount of money, and we're not allowed to talk about it. What?
It's weird. It's super weird.
And then and we wonder why 60, in perpetuity. I mean, we're seeing this now, but basically historically 2 out of every 3 people are living paycheck to paycheck. I actually think it's closer to 80% now. Just that's in my gut. But if you look online, it's between 66 and 75% of people living paycheck to paycheck.
That's way too high.
That is the symptom of the problem that I just mentioned, is that we're all getting up to spend our time this way. And here's my analogy that goes after that, right? We are all on the same playing field. Like, pretend we're all playing basketball on the same basketball court, right? All 3 of us have the balls, we're shooting, whatever. We have 3 different scoreboards, right? So, except I know the rules. Like, I know the rules to the game I'm playing. You guys don't, right? So you're shooting. You look up at the scoreboard, you're like, why am I not, getting ahead? Like, why am I not putting points on the board? Meanwhile, I'm over here, swoosh, 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 because I know the rules to the game, right? no, like we're all playing the same game on the same field, but only a few people know the rules. And it's not that magic. It's not that sexy. But I look around and I just see it, and that's what like fuels me to want to just like enlighten people, right? So anyway, get off my analogy soapbox, but so inflation, right? Let's rewind back to like 2008, right? We had the big financial crisis, right? How old were you then?
2008, I was 9 years old.
Okay, so I was in college then.
Okay.
And so I was sort of just to the point where I was like aware of what was going on in the world, like able to understand, anything beyond my, immediate life.
Of course.
So after the great financial crisis, right, it was really the failure of the mortgage market, I'm going to oversimplify here, that crashed the stock market, that then had ripple effects throughout the economy. For mass foreclosures, people couldn't afford their mortgages because people that shouldn't get mortgages were being given mortgages. So after that, we had the Federal Reserve is a nonpartisan government agency that's responsible for two things, right? Inflation being low, under 2% is their goal, and maintaining steady employment, okay? And so it's widely considered that unemployment less than 5% is considered good, right? And we're at about 4.1 right now. So their other goal is to keep inflation below 2%. And they do that by doing different things with monetary policy. Okay, so they can put more money into circulation or pull money out of circulation and more money in circulation, the less it's worth.
Yes,
aka inflation, right? So rewind back to like 2009, 2010. Our government adopted this policy called quantitative easing.
Okay.
Which is essentially money printing, right? So this has been happening for the last almost 15 years at this point. But between 2008 to 2010-ish to about 2021 to 2, so we have 80% of all the money that is circulating right now was printed in the last 4 years.
Okay.
So the government has been putting money into the money supply, diluting what the dollar is worth, making everything cost more, right? So that's what inflation is the same thing. This can of water for 12 of them is $3.69, right? Tomorrow it's $4 because the can costs more, the carbonation costs more. That's inflation, right? But it's because it costs you a little bit more to buy the air and the metal, whatever, right? And fast forward to COVID, we had obviously a widespread, everything shut down, et cetera, right? Shouldn't we? That's still under debate.
Understand.
But what happened in COVID was the government decided to print a bunch more money during Trump's administration to stimulate the economy and prop it up, right? And that didn't start with him. It had been happening, but it just accelerated to try to keep our country out of just complete catastrophe, right? So, people were getting stimulus checks. The PPP loan system happened where everyone who had a small business could get a loan, and then it was all forgiven.
That PPP loan was a little rough, man. There's a lot of people who
so much fraud. So much fraud. So the point is, 2020 happened, and then the escalation in money printing happened again. So we're printing money for the last, between 2008 to 2020. COVID's over, and then inflation spikes. Inflation was also exacerbated by supply chain issues, right?
Of course.
Ships couldn't get in because China was shut down, all this stuff, right? So it was compounded by that. So it didn't happen in the last 3 years. It didn't happen in the last 7 years, the last two presidents, right? It's been happening over the last 14, 15 years. And it's now just coming to a head really because of COVID. So what does then the Federal Reserve do? They do the opposite of quantitative easing, which is quantitative tightening. So they call it unloading their balance sheet, but they're pulling money out of circulation, right? To make each dollar that's out there worth more, right? And they've been doing that, and then they raise interest rates. So what do interest rates do? So the Federal Reserve, another lever that they have is raising interest rates, and it's the central bank interest rate we're talking about. During COVID, it was 0. So if you wanted to borrow money from the government, you could have borrowed it for $0 and then lent it to her for $6 and made a spread of 6%, right?
Okay.
That's essentially what banks do. That's what that's how the banks borrow money at the Federal Reserve interest rate and then lend it out in mortgages, and that's the mortgage business in a nutshell, right? Very overly simplified, but. But the Federal Reserve, in addition to throwing money into the economy, they lowered interest rates to 0 to try to make it really cheap for companies to borrow money to stimulate growth. So those are the two things that they really did during COVID to prop up the economy. And then the supply chain issue crunch happened, and the compounding effect of all this money printing. So then inflation went to 9% in 2021. And so when we talk about inflation, it's the trailing 12 months of increased costs. So from 2020 to 2021, inflation was 9%. From 2021 to 2022, it was around 7%. From 2022 to 2023, it was around 3%. And again, from 2023 to 2024, it was around 3%.
Okay.
So the compounding effect, because that compounds on itself, right? If you watch the news, they might say, oh, inflation's getting better, it's going down. Inflation is not going down. Inflation is getting worse slower. So things are still 3% more expensive than they were last year, but it's just not 7 or not 9%, right?
Not a huge spike where it's like crazy noticeable.
But it's still going up. It's just getting worse slower. So the compounding effect of inflation, if you do the math, is about 21.75% over the last 4 years. So the thing that cost you $100 4 years ago now costs you $121.75. And so, like I said earlier, everything costs more and people are starting to feel it. That's what really happened.
Gotcha.
So then in response to this, the Federal Reserve started taking money out of circulation, and then they also raised the central bank interest rate. So they made it more expensive for banks to borrow money, for companies to borrow money, for people to borrow money on cars, on houses, on everything, right? So they do that to literally cause unemployment to go up, to cause consumer spending to go down, to literally crash the economy. They do that. That's why the Federal Reserve does this, is to cool off the economy, or as they say, throw cold water on a red hot economy. So, we are watching closely for the unemployment rate to tick up. That's actually what we want. I know that sounds really crazy and mean, but that's what they want. As soon as they see it start to tick up, which it is, they'll start to lower interest rates, right? When housing, just in Jacksonville, Florida, we had, I think, in December, the highest amount of active listings, and I haven't looked at it in the last couple months, but highest amount of active listings. Right now, it's almost like a buyer's market, which is kind of crazy, but the interest rates are still high. So a lot there, and I'm going on and on, but feel free to ask questions. But that's really what has happened over the past 4 years, explained, the TED Talk, simplified version. But, and then, fast forward to now, I've been knowing this is happening for the last 3-4 years, but I watch this stuff like a hawk. The normal consumer is just like, holy crap, I can't afford anything anymore. But this is not a new phenomenon. This has been happening slowly to you. You know the boiling frog analogy?
Yes.
Like, the Americans have been in a pot of boiling water. It's just slowly ticking up.
And warmer, yeah.
Like the last quarter of 2023, it's like it hit the boiling point, and everyone's like burning. They're like, holy crap. This just happened to me. No. It's been slowly going up in temperature for the last 3-4 years.
Gotcha. So with the doom and gloom that you just told us there, what do you think? Is there a bright future? Is it from what you're seeing? Like, obviously, politics are politics. That's not what we talk about really. But, a new administration may come in and maybe not. What do you think is like greener pastures that we could make our way into? Do you feel like they are going to make fixes? Are we going to be feeling this for another 5-10 years, because I know you said the boiling frog analogy.
So I really do like making what's it called when you look forward, predictions. Sorry,
yes,
the word escaped me.
You're fine.
I really like making predictions because it sort of puts my economic knowledge to the test. So at the beginning of the year, I said this very outwardly and openly, that I think it's irresponsible for the Federal Reserve to decrease interest rates in 2024.
Okay.
Because inflation is still high. And just because it's now 3-ish doesn't mean a rate cut can happen and then it won't pop up again. Because if spending goes through the roof and if companies borrow money and fuel growth, this will happen again. So I'm not convinced that we're out of the woods as far as inflation goes yet. Now, if you're, by the way, let me dispel a myth here. The Federal Reserve has nothing to do with whoever's president.
I understand.
At all.
I understand
but you see people on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everyone like, this person gets in the lower interest rates. That's it. The Federal Reserve is a nonpartisan entity for a reason, because they should not be corruptible by a president who wants to make the economy look good, fake. But actually, that's low key what's been happening since 2010, and it's not really the president. It's our government's inability to stop spending money. and wanting to prop up the economy. And us here and people younger than us are really going to pay the price. Our national debt's $36 trillion. The interest on our national debt is higher than our defense spending. Like what it costs to run our military in the whole country.
And don't we have the biggest military in the entire world?
I think it
close to the top, I believe.
It could be China, it could be Israel. Don't quote me on that.
I understand.
But we're up there. I mean, we're top 3.
We have bases almost in every, if I believe correctly. Shannon, look up how many bases the U.S. government has around the world.
Yeah, I want to say 180.
I feel like we do have a good amount.
So anyway, defense spending is super high, and the interest on the national debt's higher than that for the first time ever. So anyway, greener pastures, right?
Greener pastures.
So I think that by the end of the year, it's now July 24th of 2024. I think we will have one rate cut in September.
What's that?
Sorry, it's China with over 2 million active personnel.
Okay, so it's China with a lot. So I was right.
That makes sense. They have a bunch of people.
My gut was right. Okay, so China has the largest military. But I think there will be one rate cut.
Okay.
In September. We'll revisit this and see how close I was.
Of course.
And that will be a 25 basis point or a 0.25% decrease from where it's at now. So the federal funds rate, the central bank interest rate is 5.25 to 5.5%. And it's been that high since last July. Mm-hmm. So we've had 12 months now of the highest interest rates since the year 2000. Okay. So, and there's always a lagging effect, because if they increase rates today, you don't really feel it for a couple months, right?
It's like you said, like a ripple effect.
It is. It's slow, right? Mm-hmm. And so the opposite's true. We haven't really felt the full effect of the rates being this high yet, because there's a lagging effect. They could lower it 25 basis points in September, and there's still this effect because a company only reports their earnings every quarter, right? Mm-hmm. So we're at least a quarter behind knowing like how this thing that we did affected this company, right?
Exactly.
And so it comes out. So I think we'll have one rate cut that'll put us between 5% and 5.25%. I think that mortgage rates, which are right now 6.5 to 6.75, obviously depending on credit,
of course,
will end the year right around 6.25 to 6.5 ish as an average rate. I think that the stock market. So I was on a podcast. Can't remember, a couple of weeks ago, losing track at this point, and I said that the stock market will still continue to increase and average about 20% this year. Since then, today actually was the worst day for the NASDAQ, which is the tech index, since 2022.
Really?
The NASDAQ itself lost 3% just today.
That's a huge percentage.
So the reason I bring that up is, and that is a lot for one day. Again, it's a 2-year event, right? It's the worst day. So our portfolio, I lost at least $35,000 today.
Oh,
in the market today.
That's like
lost,
obviously up and down.
Right.
I understand.
I'm making air quotes for the audio only people, but and so the reason I bring that up is we're starting to see cracks in the economy. Employment rate is above 4 for the first time since the recovery from COVID, right? The stock market's starting to show signs of weakness. Jobs, like you said, are hard to come by. I don't believe the jobs numbers, because what they do is when the government reports the jobs numbers, they quietly revise the numbers. If you go look at the Federal Reserve's, the Bureau, the Bureau, whatever they're called.
You're fine.
They report, and then they get headlines, and then they revise it. So there's always revisions in history. You can look that up on the internet. But so I think that I'm cautiously optimistic that we will be able to start lowering interest rates and give the consumer some breathing room on floating rate debt like credit cards, HELOCs, things like that soon. But I've been saying this all year. I really think aggressive lowering of interest rates, although it would help me because our portfolio would explode up. It's not good for the average consumer because it could cause inflation to spike up again. And then we're in a really bad situation because rates are already historically high, and then we've lowered them a little bit, and then inflation takes off again. We're going to have to come sort of harder to get it again, and it could cause this I don't know. I don't have a ton of good news to give you at this moment.
It's all good, man.
But to the Federal Reserve's credit, they've gone from 9 to 7 to 3 to just over 2.8 in inflation rate. That's the right direction. I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I think another 12 months will be really telling.
Interesting.
Because the Federal Reserve is waiting. They're waiting like on edge for something to break, and then they're going to have to bring rates down, right? Because no one wants the stock market to crash, right? And it was down 3% today. No one wants companies to not be able to hire or grow because that's not good for anyone. But the consumers really crunched. They're crunched on both sides. Inflation's high and interest rates are high. There's no like solace for people right now.
No.
So it's not a good time to be someone who has a bunch of money tied up in cars. Has a ton of student debt that it's now going to start hurting your credit if you don't pay it starting October 1. Dealing with debt, especially that's floating rate, it's not a good time to be that person right now.
No, it's scary, man. Like just seeing all the kind of different stuff. Even my parents were telling me, what was it? Their property taxes went up, and a mix of things. And my dad was like, "Yeah, it's like an extra $800 for us." I'm like, "Dang!" I'm like, there's like, and obviously that's small end of things, and there's people who, like you said, who have businesses and having issues. But when it comes to like the job side of things, I feel, this is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, no one will come in and work for my business and everything." It's like, we can't live off $13 an hour, and obviously there's jobs where you need to be qualified, which I totally understand. If you need a degree or you need a degree go in there to make 80, 90K. That's understandable, but to just be livable nowadays, and that doesn't mean, paying higher wages, because that continues to raise rates of everything else, whether it's food. What was it here in Florida about a year, maybe a couple years ago, where they took the minimum wage from, I think it was like $10 to $12 and then raised it up to $15. A lot of people were excited about that, but the way I looked at it, I was like, that just means things are going to get more expensive from what I saw. And obviously from what you see now, everything's super expensive. There's nothing I can't even go to Taco Bell. Me and my wife cannot go to Taco Bell and get 4 things without spending $25, and that's been a huge topic on the podcast. It makes me sick that I go to a fast food restaurant, and back in the day, whenever I was in high school, you'd be able to walk in there with $10, be able to feed a whole army. Dude, you'd feed an army, and nowadays it's $30 for a freaking like for 4 things, like 2 tacos and a freaking quesadilla. It's sickening to see how this stuff is going. And as you were saying, I've come into the age now where I'm a little bit more aware of the financial things. Back when I first moved out at 18 years old, I was 18. I'm in college, having fun, not really worried about anything. And now when it's just me and her, we're married now, finances are put together, we got bills to pay other than just rent. And rent here is like $1,600 for a 1-bedroom apartment, and it's common now. It's just I definitely, at least for me personally, I feel the squeeze on a lot of this.
Yeah, the same thing happened in the mid '80s. Our parents are baby boomers are sort of cynical about us saying that an interest rate of 5.25% is high. Oh, back in my day, mortgages were 14%. Okay, Grandpa, go back to bed. But houses were like $30,000.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
So if you actually look at the actual cost of cost of buying a home in 49 of 50 of the largest metro areas in the country, it's more expensive to buy a home than it is to rent. Not saying it's cheap to rent. I'm just saying that it's more expensive even still to buy.
And you're not building equity if you're renting. You're just throwing...
Yeah, but what happens... And so that gets thrown around so much. And much love to all my real estate agents out there. A lot of my network is real estate agents. I'm mad at you for this messaging. Building equity is a secondary concern to getting in serious financial trouble.
Understand.
What happens when someone who doesn't have an emergency fund and is living paycheck to paycheck has a hot water heater that explodes, or a roof that needs replaced,
or AC goes out,
or an AC? We have 6 homes, 5 of them are rentals, and an AC unit it used to be like $3,500 for $4,000 to put one in. It's almost $8,000. And so we've prepared for this, right? So we can do that, but it doesn't mean I want to.
Exactly.
But the point is, renting is a blessing right now. As much as it doesn't feel that way, renting is an absolute blessing, because rent is the most you'll pay. The mortgage is the least you'll pay.
I understand.
And our homes have gone up so much. The mortgages, even though our rates are locked in at somewhere between 2.5 to 3.25% on all of them, because I house hacked my way through these houses between 2019 and 2022. They're going up because of property taxes, because of insurance. So you're shielded from that, luckily. So if you're a renter who's really eager to get into a house, look at the numbers. Don't let a real estate agent, love you guys, push you into buying a home. Now is the interest rates are the highest they've been since the year 2000. It is the most expensive time to buy a house since 1984. That's 40 years ago. This is a time where it's a time to hold off on these big purchases.
Oh, 100%.
Focus inward, cut costs. Stop going to Publix.
Yeah, right.
Respectfully,
Yeah, say
Aldi works.
Oh,
I
that's
shop
a
at
good point.
Aldi.
I'll go to Aldi. That's a good point.
I love Aldi.
I haven't been there yet.
Fresh Fields also, I know it's a little bit more of a drive, but it's
Okay.
worth it. Dude, I love Fresh Fields. They have the best meat in Jacksonville.
Okay.
Bar
Down try it.
Anyway, like save money, wait for rates to come down. Mad respect to your real estate agent friends. They're hurting too, by the way.
Oh, I know they are. Yeah.
Because transactions are down. They're feeling the crunch as a consumer themselves. And it's their business. So I get it. But I'm telling everyone that's asking me for advice, don't buy a house right now.
Oh, well, that's our big thing.
Yeah.
Like I looked a couple years back and we weren't making the money that we're making now. So it just wasn't possible. And now it's just not possible. I look at it and I'm like, I don't want to be house poor. I don't want to spend all my money just to make that mortgage and then not be able to put food in the pantry or, we still have a lifestyle. We like to do other things rather than just work and just sit here on the weekends or weekdays and stuff. So it's just a crazy time. It really is. And now that I'm more aware of it is when it gets a little freaky, because I remember my parents going through this and somewhat stressing out, but they didn't show it to me because I'm a kid. What are they going to tell me? Like, oh, my mortgage is it just went up a lot. Yeah. And it's definitely just a weird thing to see, but well, as you said, hopefully there's some greener pastures.
Yeah, I think obviously, 1984 was worse. They got through it. I just don't think we're out of the woods yet. And I think anyone celebrating inflation is over doesn't quite understand economically what caused it, how it goes away, et cetera. So
does a election year mess with this kind of stuff at all? Okay, that's what I was wondering. Because I've obviously, as you were saying, seen people spout off on Instagram and stuff.
If you see someone saying that, they have no idea how it works. Just keep scrolling. Keep scrolling.
Just say, don't heart that comment or anything like that.
The thing is, it could affect the stock market, but the stock market doesn't affect interest rates necessarily. We said how like the Federal Reserve is looking to the stock market as like a cue, like, hey, should we stop turning up rates? But companies like investors like certainty. With an election year, uncertainty increases slightly. So that could increase volatility, which means like today, right? 3% loss in one day. Am I worried? No, because I'm not retiring tomorrow. Because I know just like every other time the market goes down, there's a new high in the future, right? So just today, our Align Elite customers that I mentioned, our passive income investing program, we invested over $110,000 today in the market. And I coach people to do that on a down day, right? Warren Buffett said, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. And that's our investing philosophy. And that's caused us to become multimillionaires just through doing normal stuff.
Yeah, I totally understand. And you brought up your houses, by the way. I wanted to ask you a little more about that. So I think the last time I talked to you, did you have 5 about a year ago? I thought you had like 3 or 4.
No, we have the same amount. We stopped buying because it doesn't make sense. Just like it doesn't make sense to buy a primary residence, it definitely doesn't make sense to buy a rental. Absolutely not. So we have 5 cash flowing rentals, and our 6th home is our primary home. And so
that's right.
I bought my first house in 2017. I lived there from 2017 to mid 2020. Bought a second house, made the first one a rental. And then I realized, like, hey, I can do this like every 6 months. And I was working, I was a nurse then, making 60, 70, 80 grand a year. And I was building a real estate brokerage, so I had some extra income there. I just realized, like, hey, I can do this every 6 months. All I need is about 20 to 25 grand to get into another house. So I was buying 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes in good neighborhoods to make rentals.
Families and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have incredible tenants. Like, I wanted to be like the best landlord ever when I started doing this and sort of dispel the myth that landlords have to be terrible. They certainly are, most often. But anyway, so fast forward to now, actually, knowing what I know now about investing, I'm actually looking to sell them as soon as possible.
Really?
Because I can make way more money doing dividend investing the way we do in Align Elite. We're averaging on our portfolio, our personal one, about 13.8% yearly, paid monthly. So what that means is we have a brokerage account that has about $500K in it. We invest that into dividend producing ETFs and stocks that are widely they're not risky. All investing has risk, but it's not like I'm speculating on I'm going to buy this. No, it's broad index based.
Is that kind of like the S&P 500?
Yeah. A couple of the things that we invest in is our S&P index funds that then very smart people, much smarter than me, trade options on the S&P 500 and then pay out that income.
Interesting.
Monthly. Okay. So we are making 13.8% yearly paid monthly. So it's approximately percent a month.
Gotcha.
So when we hit 2 million in that brokerage account, we're done working.
Okay.
And that's the financial independence by 40 thing is we're aggressively, every extra dollar we have is going into this. And I'm doing the math. I'm like, with how much insurance and taxes have gone up, we would make way more money just investing the money in the market the way we know how and the way we teach. And, I think a lot of people are hyper fixated on like real estate investing and it's a great thing to do, but especially today, it's not a route that I would advise because I know the math and it sucks. So, that's our, coming in the future, we will, and we're not going to, as tenants move out, we will just start selling them off.
I totally understand. It's not like you like get out.
No.
I totally understand that.
Yeah, we would never do that.
I had a question as well. This is more a little bit off topic, but it still has to do with the stocks and everything.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that whole GameStop situation? The guy kind of resurfaced, I believe, recently.
Roaring
and was
Kitty.
Yeah, Roaring Kitty was coming back. I saw a bunch of posts. So what'd you think about that whole situation?
So, it is a counterculture movement.
100% it is, yeah.
So essentially, again, without getting too investy, is that a word? No, it's not. It is today.
I like it.
Essentially, Roaring Kitty has enough of a following because the price of a stock is based on what you're willing to sell it for and what I'm willing to buy it for.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
So now there is a backstop because a company like GameStop has inventory.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have real estate because they really rent their stores. But like, let's take Apple, right?
Yeah.
Apple has a certain amount of iPhones in a warehouse. They have certain intellectual property so companies have an intrinsic value that is worth something,
mm-hmm.
right? So there's always this backstop of what something is worth. Now companies can go out of business when that thing that they're worth is worth less than their debt or whatever. They have a lawsuit, whatever. But in the situation of GameStop is not a good company to invest in at all. It's literally a joke.
That was a pump and dump scheme, basically, right?
It literally Roaring Kitty invented meme stock.
Mm-hmm.
So they took a company that was relevant to his audience, which are mostly sweaty, garage-dwelling gamers, sort of like myself. I mean, I play video games.
I do too. Someone who needs to touch grass.
And that's true.
Yeah,
I'm right. So it's sweaty, couch-dwelling, Cheeto-smelling video game players.
I love this description. This is awesome.
But you see it and you smell it. Right?
100%.
But those people tend to be counterculture, and not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens is in the stock market, companies like GameStop that will always continue to go down in value, right? Large hedge funds do what's called shorting it.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's options trading. So I mentioned options trading. So that's options trading. So big hedge funds load up on short positions on companies that go down in value, like GameStop, like AMC.
Yep.
Who also theaters have a ton of overhead. They're a dying business, unfortunately.
Especially in today's digital world where you can just get the movie or the video game.
These companies, as they report earnings, will continue to go down. Large hedge funds will take large short positions, which will continue to drive down the value of the stock, and then they cash out of these short positions and make tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, Roaring Kitty came along and was like, no. He has enough of a following that they had people buy such a large amount of GameStop to drive up the price, right? Because it's only worth what you're willing to sell it for,
exactly.
what I'm willing to buy it for. So they're trading these stocks, trading them up, and then these large hedge funds are losing billions of dollars. So that actually happened. So there's a great documentary on Netflix about how this happened. And again, this is a TED Talk, simplified version of what happened, But then he came out again.
He reemerged.
He did all that, and then he went into just nothingness. And then all of a sudden he came back a couple months ago,
something like that. Yeah,
drove
recently.
up the stock and did the same thing. But now he has more of a following. Here's how I feel about it. It is a pump and dump.
Mm-hmm.
He's making a ton of money off of this. A ton of money.
He wouldn't just be doing this just out of the kindness of his heart in some ways.
I mean, there's no such thing as altruism. Like, no one does. It's sort of been proven that there's no amount of charity that you can do that doesn't at least give you the warm feelies, the warm fuzzies. So there's something in every decision that someone's making for themselves.
We're motivated by something.
100%. So he's making a ton of money off this. He's basically, it's an activist. He's an activist. Mm-hmm. He's raising his hand and saying, like, the financial system is corrupt. And do I believe it is to a point? Yes. Is everything to a point? 100% yes. You have to know the rules to play the game to enrich yourself and your family. I wholeheartedly believe in that.
In today, this world, information's closer to you than what it was back in the 80s, where you'd have to go to a library. You nowadays, not saying like, not everything is on the internet, but just to give yourself a basic outline of the knowledge you're looking for, you can find it on the internet nowadays.
I learn 90% of the things I learn every week on YouTube.
YouTube's
I
amazing.
watch 10 to 20 hours a week of YouTube just learning. I never stopped learning. In fact, my learning has like sort of hockey sticked in the past couple of years, because I've realized the more I learn, the more I elevate myself, and now all of our customers grow at the rate I grow.
Exactly.
Right. So to tie a bow on the Roaring Kitty thing, it's very similar to crypto coin schemes, right? Where the newest shit coin is out. And
that was so annoying when that was going on.
It still is,
God.
though. And there's a whole swath of people who are very similar to the sweaty, Cheeto-smelling, gamers that believe in this cryptocurrency, which it's a whole other episode.
That's a whole different. That's a conversation. I've tried to understand it. Like there's a blockchain and all this other stuff. I don't know.
I could make you understand it, because it's a lot simpler than all these sweaty Bitcoin lovers would lead you to believe.
I'm sure
there is some really valuable technology that I believe is the future inside of it, and that is blockchain.
Yeah,
we can talk about that another time.
Understand.
But it's the same thing of like, anyone can create a crypto coin. Like it's not a proprietary thing. And what they do is they get all this hype around it. It blows up. And then you better believe they're selling at the top. This is not going to become the new digital dollar.
Exactly.
It's the same exact thing. It's the same thing that's happening. It's the same thing with NFTs. You could search back in the archives. I've been saying from the start, NFTs are complete garbage. Straight dog water investment. And there's a whole subset of the population that believed like, my gamer punk thing. Like people still have that as their profile picture.
What was the monkey one?
Bored Ape Club.
Oh my God, that was the one.
I had people that, I have friends that are not stupid that swore up and down to me that it just, and then when I said like this is going to zero, they're looking at me like I have three heads, like that, like even upset with me that I'm saying it. But 98% of NFTs are worth this much now.
Yeah, they're not worth anything, man. I remember going on Twitter, and that was like every other freaking ad was something about Bored Apes or some coin that you were saying. Dogecoin was a thing for a minute, and it just got to the point where I looked at it and like I can see where stuff in the future could pop up again and be a little bit more interesting. Just right now, it didn't make enough sense for me to invest anything into it. And now you look back at it and you're like, Thank God I didn't touch it. This was during COVID time and everything as well, where I feel like a lot of scams were going on, like you were talking about, and it was just common. And there's nothing worse than scammers. But when we're kind of getting closer to the end of the podcast here, is there a topic you feel like we haven't touched that you'd like to go over?
Man, I already want to come back. I think let's talk. Let's give some value. I want to give some value.
Go right ahead.
We've been talking about a lot of like
I'm more than happy to
in the weeds stuff. So if you're someone listening to this who is struggling and you're like I said at the top of this, you're looking at your bank account, you're like, I don't have as much money. I feel the crunch. Like I'm having to, I have a balance on my credit cards that I didn't used to. Like my messaging for 2024 has been how to win with money in 2024. And spoiler alert, it was the same message in 2023 that I gave in 2022, et cetera. We put out a wealth building guide that we put out now every year. We do a monthly investing newsletter that goes out for free to our mailing list, just educating. It's geared towards people who know nothing about investing to help you learn something about investing, right? And what's going on in the world and how it affects you. So my messaging for how to win with money in 2024 is you have to do a full financial audit. And we call them financial audits because we do them for our customers. Anyone listening to this can book a free financial audit with us. 30 minutes. It does not cost anything. Go to our website, alignmoneymastery.com, alignmoneymastery.com. A little pop-up will happen. It'll say, book a free financial audit. Click the button. But you can do this yourself. A free financial audit looks like writing down all your assets, which is your bank account, your 401k, your car, anything that's an asset is anything that has monetary value. Now, assets can be appreciating like a 401k or like stocks and depreciating like a car. Put them in the asset side. Then you go to the debt side, list your student loans, list your credit cards, list your car payment, all that stuff, and just put it on paper and look at it. Okay, most people have never and will never do this. So if you've done this, you're already ahead of your peers. So once you've done that, I want you to go into all those accounts and look at every transaction. We have a financial software that we use. It's not ours. It's called Monarch Money, where you can link all your accounts and it'll literally pull in every transaction. So do a financial audit. get aware of your finances, get your arms around it. Okay. It might not be pretty, but you have to do it. Okay. If you're not doing it this year, you'll definitely have to do it next year, et cetera, et cetera. So, decrease unwanted spending and excess spending. Most people have a gym membership they forgot they paid for, an Amazon membership that, oh my God, I'm paying for this twice, whatever, right? Decrease wasted spending immediately, okay? Once you've done that, you have to focus on paying down high interest debt, okay? Once you've done that, build what I call a moat, which is a 6-month emergency fund. And I'm going over a lot here, but this is the process that we walk people through in our class, and how we add value very quickly is to give clarity on your specific money situation. So if you're listening to this, at least do a financial audit, at least get rid of wasted spending, and at least start building up a somewhat of an emergency fund, even if you still have a little debt laying around, so you don't have to put a flat tire or a broken arm on a credit card, okay? If you're there and you don't know what to do, just reach out to us and we can walk you through. We're happy to spend a half an hour with you to give you clarity on what to do. If you want to work with us, awesome. If you don't want to, still awesome. Like, you will leave that meeting with more clarity around your money than you came with. And literally everyone needs to do this. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care about your situation. If we have people and I know we got to go. We have people that have come in our class who make $300,000 to $400,000 a year and are paycheck to paycheck. It does not matter how much money you make. I cannot say that loud enough or clear enough. It does not matter how much money you make. It matters what you spend and how much you keep, right? If I make $1 million and I spend $990,000, right, and someone makes $50,000 and only spends $40,000, at the end of the year, they both still have $10,000 left. And this is the situation where then cost of living goes up a little bit and people are crunched. So the unfortunate thing, and you sort of touched on this, and I want to come back, like next week, as soon as possible, right?
Of course, man.
Dude, I love talking about this, and if one person hears this and is like, I got to make a change, worth it, right? But, I think that no matter what happens with inflation, no matter what happens with interest rates, if you don't do this, you will continue to feel the crunch. You'll still be part of that 66 to 75% of people who are paycheck to paycheck, and you're going to feel this crunch forever. And it sounds really sucky to say, but I'm being honest because I want you to win. That's just the situation, and we can help, and there's resources out there for you to do better. So,
oh man, I love it. And like I said, every time I sit down with you, I always learn some more, and it's always interesting. And you're always welcome for a part 3, man. Awesome. We're always happy. I'm happy that I finally got you to come to our set.
I need to bring something next time.
Of course. Just say we're always about it, man. We always like working with people here in Jackson. Like I said, you're a wealth of knowledge, and if you guys are interested in anything that he talked about, make sure you guys go reach out. He literally said he'll give you free 30 minutes of his time. You guys will come in there, learn more than what you came in there with. So if you guys aren't reaching out to him to try to save some money nowadays, get out of debt, which we all need to get out of, especially in this time of day, make sure you guys reach out. Everything will be linked in the description, so make sure you guys go give him a follow, subscribe, check out his website. And one more time before I let you go, if you can let everybody know your website, all your social media accounts again, just so they can get into contact with you and follow. Gotta get back on the TikTok, man. Gotta keep putting the videos out. I feel like people will love it. Speaking of that, one of our first video that we did together went almost for 1 million views, so check them out.
Yeah, it went crazy.
It did.
So many people were like, you're stupid, you're this, you're that, and I'm like, no, but thanks for the engagement.
Like, there was comments for months. I would I would get a notification. I'm like, oh wow, I'm like, they're still going back and forth.
It went nuts, and it's we did something right.
Hey, so we'll take it.
But yeah, so our company again is Align Money Mastery. It was born out of me just learning about money and realizing other people need to know how to do it too. So alignmoneymastery.com. Follow me on Instagram, @RealBruceLee. TikTok is Bruce Breedlove. Just search my name, I'll come up. My name is The Millionaire Money Coach on there. And let's see what else. Facebook, just follow me on Facebook personally. Again, just search my name. That's where I share most tidbit information about economic stuff. If you want to learn that, follow there. And you can email us your email address, and we'll put you on our investing newsletter distribution list that comes out the first week of every month. We share our numbers. Like, we're very open with our portfolio just because we believe in complete transparency to sort of debunk that taboo nature of money. We're completely open. We want people to trust us as well. Like, we openly share, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
So if you've done all that, and go to the website, book a free financial audit, and can't wait to meet you.
Hell yeah. So guys, go give him a follow. Go check out the website. Like I said, man, he's putting out great information, and we all could learn a little bit. As he was saying, money is a little bit of a taboo subject for really no reason. We really don't understand why, but kind of how we were all brought up. So go in there, learn something, get out of debt, and maybe one day you'll be someone got stolen. Oh no.
Not again.
Not again. Sorry about that, y'all. But like I was saying, you guys can go in there and learn. You guys can get in there and try to help get yourself out of debt, and maybe you guys can retire at 40 years old like this gentleman's talking about doing. I was like, that's my goal. I don't know about y'all. So make sure you give him a follow, like, subscribe, all that normal stuff. And for us, if you guys want to give us a follow, it's going to be Who Are You Pod on all of our social media. Make sure you guys check us out. We post, daily videos, always putting out new interviews out there as well every single Monday. If you guys want to follow us or subscribe to us, on YouTube, it's going to be Who Are You? Podcast. You guys be able to see, we got the logo up there. That's our, all of our faces are on there as well. So make sure you guys come and check us out. And if you guys know anybody who has a story that needs to be told, a business owner, entrepreneur, artist, really a mix of anybody, you think they'd be a good fit for the show, shoot me an email, hit me up on any of the, any of my DMs on any of the social media. It's going to be whoareyoupod@yahoo.com for my email, and maybe we'll have you guys on a future episode. But as I say every single week, y'all, thank you so much for taking the time to listen or watch us, and we'll see you guys next week.